news? Do you want to hear commentary? Do you want to hear some of the best opinions and perspectives on information? Then what you need to tune to is Robert Noer of Normal America. Normal America is a play on words, but he doesn't play with you when it comes to his hard-hitting in your face, sometimes a little bit loud and gruff.
So, we need to wiretap. They left out. Oh, and he said our case is garbage. They again did the exact opposite of the truth. Again.
And other times, a little softer.
Charities of the groups that are sending that money. So, for example, there's been reports, and I haven't...
There's softer sides to Rob, and there's more up in your face. Which one are you going to get? Do you want to listen to somebody who's a little more abnormally smart than you? Do you wish you lived in a normal America? Well, then you need to check out Robert Noer. Noer of Normal America. Check him out today, guys. You won't be disappointed.
Hello, Muhammad, ABCD. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. So this was impromptu, as in not planned, but I was having a good time. Duke, thanks for being here as always. I was having a good time. I just did the Patriot Super Panel on Doug Ducote's show. Was having a good time. We had 20-something callers lined up waiting to get in. Then unfortunately we had to leave. Some people had to leave, but I'm still up, so I thought I would do a little live stream. Also have an ulterior motive. I do my planned live stream 11 p.m. on Tuesdays because I'm at a different setup here when I'm at work. I wanted to make sure that everything was going to work with the new restream while I'm here to make sure I didn't have any buffering issues. So I'll go a half hour or so here, talk about some of the news of the night, maybe take some call-ins, and we'll see where we go from there. But thank you, everyone, for being here. What's up, Robert? Thanks for being here. I miss anyone else? Done playing around? Thanks for being here. If anyone's new that came over, thank you. If you came over from the Patriot Super Panel, I really like doing that panel. Those guys are great. But me being so verbose and such a talker, it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut when there's 5 other people on the show with me. So I like to do my own show as well. So, yeah, the 2 things that I wanted to talk about was check out the video I just did earlier this evening, if you haven't already, about the coronavirus. The article's unreal from this guy, Dr. Francis Boyle, who was the guy who drafted the 1989, basically, bioterrorism legislation. This is a prestigious doctor who's basically coming out like, look, the World Health Organization owns the lab, in the BSL-4 lab in Wuhan, where this virus came from, and they know that it's a weapon. In other words, this was a created, scientifically manufactured disease strand in order to be a weapon, and it's got released. Now, that doctor doesn't speak as to whether or not that releasing was intentional or if it was designed as an act of war or whatever, but he knows this was created as a weapon of war and that the World Health Organization knows it as well and is covering it up. Like, that's devastating. I really encourage everyone to check out that video I did. I have the link to the article there, and the article is linked through Zero Hedge. For those of you who don't know, if you watch the Patriot Super Panel, my friend SJG was talking about this. Zero Hedge actually got banned from Twitter for talking about this story, discussing this story. They said because it mentioned a specific scientist that might be connected with that lab in Wuhan, that was doxing. But again, look at the double standard. All of the stories for 3 years about how Trump and his associates were Russian assets, all of their information being given out wasn't considered doxing. All of the videos about Nick Sandman and the Covington kids having punchable faces, all of the videos of people being doxed, or people like Carlos Meza from Vox saying throw milkshakes with cement on them against Trump people. Make sure Trump supporters can't feel comfortable being in public. And they allow all of that to slide. Why is it? I mean, for me, look, I talked a lot about this on the Patriot Hour show with Michael, who's awesome. I love doing his show. I'm going to be doing another show with him Thursday. Why is it? To me, it always raises an antenna when someone tells me I'm not allowed to talk about something. Now, does this mean I believe every, quote, conspiracy theory I hear? No. But I'm an inquisitive person by nature, and anytime someone tells me that it's, quote, immoral for me to ask questions, it's automatically a red flag to me. There's a lot of shady stuff going on with this coronavirus story. The big point that I have about all of it is it's a shame that we can't even trust our own government. Our government agencies lie to us so often that when it would come to a time where we actually need them to help keep us safe for something that we have no control over, like a pandemic, who knows if you could trust them? So, yeah, check that video out. Who else we got on here? Rock Tumbler, thanks for being here. David Woodruff, I'll have to check that out. Anthony Patch, I haven't checked that video out. Preacher says, coronavirus appeared to be engineered with HIV. Yes, I read those articles and I mentioned that in my video as well. And this is exactly how scientists say you would create a pandemic. You would have flu-like symptoms, but put it in with contagion like HIV with symptoms of it for the spreading of it. Right? So that way you would create a powerful flu virus, but that's hypersensitive to being able to spread in various ways like the HIV virus. That's how you would manufacture a weapon like this. And I've said it, I even say in the video, look, I've said for a long time that a biological weapon is the most likely catastrophic event that we could see that's human created. For various reasons. One is that it's easier to get access to these materials than things like nuclear weapons. A second thing would be that it spreads on its own, right? It's like setting a fire. We see how much damage arsonists could do in Australia with the California wildfires, etc. All you have to do is set a small localized fire and it spreads on its own. That's what a pandemic would be like. You create the virus, you set it out, it spreads on its own. So it's easy material to get. It spreads efficiently without you doing much work. And the other thing is, there's plausible deniability as if it's even an attack or not. If you get hit with a chemical or a nuclear agent, there is no mistake. That was a purposeful weapon that was detonated. But with the biological attack, we still don't know. The official story, the narrative is, oh, this came from a wet market in Wuhan, where people were eating bats and snakes and stuff. So a lot of skepticism to be warranted here. Now, this isn't my forte. It's not my cup of tea. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to tell you that I have some understanding of pandemics or medical literature and things like that. But I got a good BS detector, and I can see that this story is garbage. Not just the Chinese government lying, not just the U.S. government lying, but also the World Health Organization. And the stakes are high. Look, yes, I'm an American. When I'm talking about politics, I believe one of the huge mistakes that we make politically is we have a government that's not interested first and foremost in the rights of American citizens. And that's appalling. So that's why my political content is focused on that. But make no mistake about it, I'm a human. Even if it wouldn't lead to mass casualties in the United States, any virus like this is devastating. My heart goes out to the people in China, the people in Hong Kong that are being affected most by this right now. So it is a story worth watching. I'm sure there are people covering it better than me, but I'll be watching it for you also. Yeah, check out that video I did. Oops. I scrolled up and Mark says read my comment above. Okay, we'll do so. 3 that are trapped in the left-right paradigm. Mark thinks that the stream was a train wreck. Well, yeah, I guess I could talk about this. So I'll be honest with you all. That's one thing that I plan on doing with my audience. I'm honest with what my show's about. I love talking to different people. I like having different perspectives. I've asked my moderators, please leave people that disagree with me. Don't censor them. Leave their comments on here. So I trust you all. I think you're the best audience out there. I really do. Hey, Lori, what's up? So, yeah, let me talk honestly about the Patriot panel. Everyone has a different style, and it's a different cup of tea. And I get it. So I've had people tell me, I don't like this particular person you do the show with, or I don't like this particular person, or I don't like when they talk about this. And that's fine. I do enjoy doing it. I really do. And I enjoy a lot of the perspectives that they're coming with. So I'll probably keep doing the show. But I do think that me, SJG, and Drone Tech are going to be doing some stuff kind of on our own, or it's at least more controlled by us. Doug and American Joe were unbelievably gracious enough to bring me on. I doubled my subscribers in 2 weeks just doing American Joe and Doug Ducote's show. So I'm very humbled for them doing that. I also think that they handled themselves with complete grace and just in an awesome way when it came to the Virginia rally. I watched all their live streams. I wasn't part of it, but I watched it and I thought they did a phenomenal job. I think that they come at things, we would disagree on some things. They come at things at a different angle than me. But we basically agree on 95%, I think, of the issues that we discuss. I'm sure that there are people right now on American Joe and Doug Ducote's show like, get that Joker Rob guy out of there. He runs his mouth too much, blah, blah, blah. So, that's just the nature of it. Not everything I'll do will connect to everyone. So, but Mark, you are someone whose feedback I really appreciate. So I'm going to keep doing my own content as well. That's just something I'll be doing once a week. But, I have been doing a lot with Michael from the Patriot Hour. I really enjoy his show too. So I have nothing but good things to say about those guys. One thing I will say with the format, it's very difficult to get 6 people that are all as talkative as much as us on one show, particularly then when you start doing these call-ins. It makes it really difficult. And so it ends up like the call-ins, I think they're going to work on that. Doing more of like, if you call in 20 seconds, make your point, leave people respond. Because what ends up happening is you just sit there while some caller calls in and talks for 10 minutes. Many times they have great stuff to say, but then you just move on to the next caller and no one's really talking. So, they're tweaking with it, but thank you, Mark. I do appreciate your input, and I encourage anyone, please give me any criticism you have, whether it's me doing other shows that you don't care for that, or you don't like some of the topics I'm covering, or I have technical issues like audio, video issues that you don't like, or you just think I'm wrong about something. Please, I'm all about the First Amendment. I'm all about the idea of disagreeing. I try to bring people on that have debates with me and disagree. I encourage that in my chat as well, people that disagree. I'm very bad at not reading the chat because I'm so talkative. Yeah, thank you, Duke Rao. Yeah, and there are a lot of people that really like that show as well. But, I do get emails from people that are like, hey, I don't like when you do this. I'll just give you one example. This is the honest truth. I had emails from several great people that were like, you need like a promo card. Get a promo for your show. Just something short, like a minute. So SJG helped me out and set up a promo. Then I got an email today. It was like, I don't like the promo. I think you should go back to not having a promo. So, people have different opinions, but I hope what you take away from me is I'm giving you my honest opinion. When I disagree with those guys or anyone, I'll vocalize it. I hope, I'll criticize Republicans. I'll criticize Trump. I try to stand on my own in that and have my own opinion. This is something I say a lot, and I truly believe it. I really believe this. I think that if you're a free thinker, you will never find an individual in the history of the world that totally agrees with you about everything. And if that's the case, you'll never find a political party that totally agrees with you about everything. Not just me, but you, everyone watching. We're all going to have differences. So, whether it be aesthetic differences, stylistic differences, actual differences on policies, we're going to have those. So, I'll really do encourage the input, and I'll try my best to work with it. So, yeah, I agree, Lori. We all have our own style, but sorry I'm trying to check out some of the chat. So I'll try to get to some. Preacher, by the way, I see your chat. You are showing up in my chat. I apologize if a lot of people make awesome points and I miss it. I really do apologize. I'm such a rambling type person. I get off on these rants and I forget to look. And as I get more people watching, the chat goes faster and I end up missing a lot of stuff. So I really do apologize. I do try to get to the chat now. Fret Finger says, the new virus appears to be an anti-yellow people bioweapon. That particular gene that differentiates racial groups is probably the component they reused from the HIV virus. Perhaps. I don't know the specific medical terminology, or I'm an admitted novice when it comes to kind of that sort of thing. But I do see the benefit of this. Look politically at the situation in Hong Kong with China. This would be a beneficial time to change the narrative from China oppressing Hong Kong and the protesters there to, now we have to quarantine people because of this disease. I've read stuff. If you watch that video I just did on the coronavirus, a guy by the name of Nyquist, I read the section where he talks about this is something that Chinese military people have been talking about unleashing for a long time to kind of get control, both not only to get parity with the United States and help on the global level, but to consolidate national control. Lori says, I mentioned Robert Noah, I mentioned in chat because I moderate for you and you guys, and I agree with you about Republicans as well. They're bad on both sides. Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm trying to get out that I think I really spend a lot of time on. I'm a Republican. I ran as a Republican in 2019. I will probably be running for office in 2022. If I run, I'll be running as a Republican. I do believe in the Republican Party, but let's not kid ourselves. A lot of times we get so focused on saying Nancy Pelosi's horrible and Chuck Schumer's horrible. Yeah, those people are horrible. AOC's horrible. Agreed, right? But we don't look at the devil in our own backyard. Now, it's not necessary. There are people that were just horrible. Your Flakes, your McCains, your Romneys. These are, rhinos, a polite way of putting it, but these are establishment people. There is a false left-right paradigm. Now, I don't go as far as some other people. There are people I think that make the mistake of saying, oh, both sides are terrible, so not one side's better than the other. That I heavily disagree with. When we take that tact, you end up allowing the most heinous of abuses to occur. For example, CNN went after the Covington kids. Oh, the treatment of Kavanaugh. Oh, well, whatever, both sides do it. No, they don't. On that scale, in that ferocious of a manner, with that many, so the quantity of the attacks of the Covington kids and the Kavanaugh and against Trump, etc., it is unique. It's definitely worse from that side. But the big fight is not left versus right. And we should all understand that. The big fight is establishment versus everyone else, or globalist versus the rest of us. And there are establishment people on the right. At the highest level in the Republican Party, your Jeff Flakes, your Romney, your McCain, I am convinced they would have rather had Hillary Clinton win than Trump. Hillary Clinton, who all three of those people, in addition to many other Republicans with power, told us was the worst possible person. Yet all of a sudden they backed her, even either openly or in secret, they chose her. Why? Because there is this, more important than anything to them is maintaining power. They know that they've done dirty stuff, and they know that the other side, the Democrats, have done dirty stuff at the highest levels. So there's this mutual agreement. Yeah, we'll pretend to fight about things. We'll pretend to disagree on issues that don't matter to them, like abortion or gay rights or whatever. But when it comes to the big issues, the foreign regime change wars, the bailing out bankers, all of that crap that personally enriches them and consolidates their power, they both agree on everything. And so we need to understand that. And that also means talking to people on the left that you might disagree with a lot of stuff. Ending this corruption is prima facie to dealing with anything else. As long as this corruption is allowed to occur within our government, where you have the FBI that's spying on Trump, where you have intel agencies that periodically lie to get us in these foreign regime change wars, where you have the leadership of both parties bailing out corrupt bankers, etc. As long as that stuff's allowed to occur, none of the issues, whether they're issues on the right or issues on the left that average people care about, will ever be dealt with. And so I think, in addition to that, there's also the general idea of Republicans that aren't terrible. They mean well, but they're incompetent. And that's something I think we see a lot more of, particularly in the House of Representatives. The defense of Trump is not very good. The Republicans are on the defense all the time. That's why you should hold your particular representative accountable. It's not enough just to vote once in a while. Oh yeah, I'm against impeachment. They should be out there taking their message to the American people every day about why this is a coup. They should be talking about this corruption straight to the American people every day. So ask yourself, what is my representative doing? So, implementation of Agenda 21. Right, and this has to, right, and I've thought of that. Again, I'm not big into that level of, like, I know what Agenda 21 is. It's a depopulation agenda. You see things like the Georgia Guidestones that kind of set the agenda of Agenda 21 out, where they want massive depopulation. And I do believe that the elite want this. And all sorts of things push into this. The climate change agenda puts into that, where they're constantly shaming people to not reproduce. The abortion agenda pushes into that. All sorts of things. So it's maybe something I'll do as an issue with something. Abaddon! I got one viewer, at least from DLive, on here. Check out in my description now. You can find my DLive account as well. So follow me on DLive. I'd really appreciate it. Leonard Pullman says, get them out with term limits. Yeah, I agree. I signed a pledge when I ran in 2019. I'm not sure exactly what my preference for... I'd have to really sit down and think about it with people smarter than me to what exactly the term limit should be. But my gut feeling is this. 3 terms in the House, 2 in the Senate. That gives you 12 years as a senator. That's more than enough. 2 should easily be the maximum for senator. 3 terms gives you 6 years in the House. That means if you're a congressperson in the House for 3 terms and then the Senate for 2, that gives you 18 years. That is more than enough in Washington. And the problem is people get disconnected, whether it be because they're power hungry and getting wealthy, so it's on purpose, or it's accidental. Another thing that I recommend, that I'm the only person I've seen recommend this, I think that we should change the rules that occur in the House of Representatives and the Senate chambers to not make people be on the floor of the Senate and Congress as much. I think you should spend as much time as possible in your home district representing your constituents. And I mean this as someone who comes from rural America, where I think that our politicians go off to DC and forget about us. But hey, maybe you're in urban America. Maybe you're in the inner city. Same thing. You're representing inner city Detroit, but you're never there. You're in DC. We have technology now. I'm talking to 30 people right now online. You mean to tell me that our Senate and House don't have the technology where people could stay at their offices in their home districts and be able every day to do the work that they're doing? Now, yes, if you have a top secret clearance or meeting that needs to go and you're uncomfortable doing it online, that's one thing. You still have people show up 1-2 days a week to Washington to be able to have those sorts of discussions and votes. If there's an emergency, sure, you show up. Something like an impeachment hearing, absolutely. But the day-to-day business? And how about this? How about then you work more? You'd need less vacation time then. I mean, it's a sham how much these Congress people get paid and how little working days they actually commit. Yeah, hit the like button. Thank you, Frankie. I'm Big Sky Crypto. Thanks for being on D-Live as well. So, yeah, please hit like. It's important to me. I do have to say, so if I'm going to start doing more videos with my wife, and some of that won't be political oriented. It might just be about how she's a better person than me. That's what she wants the videos to be about. But no, I'm going to start branching out and I'm still going to put out as much political content as I am now, but I'm going to branch out and do some other stuff as well. Anyways, the reason I bring this up is, I think that she picks on me all the time because I'm like, please hit like and subscribe. She's always laughing in the background like, what a tool, listen to this guy. But it is important. When I'm watching a video, I never think to hit like until someone says hit like. And then I'm like, oh yeah. Hit like, or the same with subscribing. It really does mean a lot to me. I'm trying to grow my audience and get out there. It's not because I'm conceited, though that is part of it. I do think I do a good job, and I think that I put things in a different way. I come from a unique angle, and I hope it does reach people. But also, I think that the reason is because it gives people like you a better voice through me. And I also encourage all of you, if you can, start your own channel. Do what you can. And if you have a channel and would like me to support it, I can't guarantee I will support it. And some of the channels that I mention on here, I don't agree with everything they say necessarily. But I encourage everyone, whether you're on the left, you're on the right, do your own research, have your own channel, because independent voices are what's important. I still maintain that there is a huge divide in this country right now. Huge. But if we're really honest with the majority of people, I don't know, 80% or more, are good people. And we all want the same things. We want people to not be homeless. We want everyone to be healthy. We want people to have enough money to be able to succeed themselves. Things like that. We just disagree on how to get there. I have socialist friends. I deplore the idea of socialism. I think I'm a very skilled advocate against socialism. But at the end of the day, me and them agree on what we want. We want people to be healthy. We want the country to do well, etc. And these are good people. These aren't, politicians that are in it to get wealthy for themselves. They're people working 9 to 5s like me and you. We disagree on how to get there, but we agree on what we would like to see. It's not everyone. I know some of you will say, that's not true. I know people. Of course. But in general, those people exist. And so I'm trying to reach out and show a bridge. We need to end this corruption. I also understand I don't want to live in a world where everyone agrees with me. I don't want to live in a country where there's only one political party in the United States. That would be a disaster. It would become corrupt very quick. So I understand the need to reach out to people that disagree with me. And so I'm dead serious when I say, if you're on the left and you're watching this and you're like, yeah, right, Rob doesn't want me to have a voice. I completely do. Independent, real-world voices are what's most important to me. To heck with CNN. To heck with the gatekeepers in the media, the mainstream media, that want to silence and go after everyone. So that's why I always try to make it a point to try to talk to friends I have on the left on this show as well. To show, hey, I welcome you coming on disagreeing with me. I want to reach out to as many people as possible. So, let's see. Let's go back to the chat. Yeah, we briefly have it on, talked about Rush Limbaugh. It's sad. We didn't talk a lot about it. Like, for example, one of the angles I thought we'd get into was, you know, there are a lot of disgusting people that are happy that he got lung cancer. Now, let me be honest with you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I like Christopher Hitchens, even though I would consider myself a Christian, and Christopher Hitchens was probably the most prominent atheist in the world. I thought he was funny. I thought he was an incredible debater. He was charming. I mean, he was a fantastic debater. I love watching Hitchens debates. Really love it. When Jerry Falwell died, you know, Hitchens was brutal. He went in Fox News and said that if they gave Falwell an enema, they could have fit his corpse in a matchbox. I mean, that's a polite way of saying he's filled with, you know. So I'm not going to bag on that too much, but there is a little too much glee from some people in the Twitter sphere on Rush Limbaugh getting lung cancer. And before I be accused of being a hypocrite, I have wished Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the, you know, Supreme Court justice that I disagree with the most, a speedy recovery. I really have. You can check out my channel. You can check out my post on blogs. I do not relish in the death of anyone, even politicians that I think are corrupt and ruining this country. I give them that benefit of the doubt that I won't relish in their death. There are at least, if nothing else, considered there are family members of that person. You know, now a straight up terrorist like Baghdadi, Soleimani, that's different. But that's how I feel. I thought that. So what you guys see? Johnny Rhodes says, I believe in people more than you do. Maybe. So let me, if you're familiar with my channel, you've heard me say this before. When you're talking, whether it's on a YouTube channel or you're talking to your spouse or, you know, boyfriend or girlfriend, or you're talking to your friend at the bar or your coworker at work, you have to remember your audience isn't just the person you're talking to. It makes sense here, obviously. There's 31 people listening to me. But there's also potentially people that'll watch later, etc. I mean, this could be viewed 50 years from now. It could be viewed long after I'm in the grave. Who knows? But it's not just if you're recording yourself. It's also true in a conversation. You never know who's listening to you. And oftentimes, even if you know that only one person's listening to you, you don't really know what that person's thinking. So I put it this way. There's 5 potential audience members that you have, or they come from 5 potential ways. And this is for you, Johnny Rhodes. The idea that I believe in people more. In other words, it seems optimistic to a lot of people to say most people want the same things good for the country. Maybe it is. I don't know. It's just my gut feeling. But here's why I think it's advantageous to at least act like that. Because there are 5 potential audience members. So anytime you talk, you will have people that could listen that almost will always agree with you and almost always disagree with you. And honestly, it's hard to change those people's mind. Like, I have supporters, like take Trump, for example, right? Trump could come out tomorrow and say something totally out of character for him. And there are Trump supporters that'll be like, yeah, whatever, I support Trump, I support that. It would be very difficult for Trump to upset those type of supporters. Conversely, let's use Trump as the example. There are people that hate Trump. So much so that they will, no matter what Trump does, even if it's something like criminal justice reform that they've advocated for years, they'll pretend to hate it because Trump said it. You're not going to change many of those people's minds. But then there are people that are leaning towards agreeing with you or usually agree to you, but can change. And people that are leaning towards disagreeing with you, but can change. And then there are people smack dab in the middle. Maybe they're undecided, or maybe they're just totally ignorant of what you're talking about. They're just like, hey, I have no clue what you're talking about, so I haven't taken a side. You should always be talking knowing that no matter what you're saying, that those people are the ones whose minds you could change. So even if you're talking, and I've done it here, I've had debates with people that are staunch anti-Trump people, but when I'm talking to them, I'm trying to do my best to treat them at least with reciprocity and civility, in that at least, even if they're not a person arguing in good faith, people may hear it. And so when you look at it like that, there's 4 possible outcomes you could have with a discussion with someone. So let's assume I'm talking with my aunt, who's a rabid anti-Trumper, but it could be anyone, right? There are 2 possibilities. Either my aunt is operating in good faith and is willing to have an honest conversation and we just disagree, or she's not operating in good faith and she's just terrible. Right? Those are the 2 possibilities. There are 2 possibilities with how I could treat her. I could treat her like she's operating in good faith, or I could treat her like she's a liar and she's not operating in good faith. So if you have a little box here, you can see there are 4 possible conversations we could have. So let's take the first possible conversation. I know this is wordy and seems uninteresting, but I'm getting to the point. The first possible conversation is, I assume my aunt is operating in bad faith, and I treat her like crap because of that. Our discussion's not going to be fruitful for anything. Now, let's say I assume she's operating in bad faith, but she wasn't. I was wrong. Now I've lost an opportunity to actually have a reasonable discussion with someone. So let's go to the other option. Let's say she is operating, or let's say I treat her like she is operating in good faith. And I'm wrong, she's not. Oh well, no harm done. I wasted time talking to her, but whatever. Now let's assume she is operating in good faith and I treat her as such. That is the only possible outcome where we could actually have a meaningful conversation. So this is a wordy way of saying, I try to always assume the best in people, unless it's blatant. Like, look, Adam Schiff, yeah, we know what's going on there. But until I personally have a reason to believe someone's personal interaction with me is in bad faith, I try to always give them the benefit of the doubt. Because to me, that's the only worthwhile conversation, the only possibility for having a worthwhile conversation. Yeah, Keelys, that's why I came on here. Like, thank you, Skywater NC. Thank you. If you're new here, please like and subscribe. I'm better than Savage and Rush. That's big shoes to fill. Thank you. I hope so. Yeah, the voting machine. Has anyone seen this? What a mess. Like, here, let me see if I can bring this up. Hopefully, my window captures right here. Let's just go to the Drudge Report headline, right? Which Drudge sucks now, don't get me wrong, but I found the headline hilarious. I'll bring it up here. This is great. Here's the Drudge Report headline. Oh, don't have it set up right. Iowa blows it. App failure. Election fiasco. Oh, my goodness. Unreal. And that's the truth. So for those of you that don't know, that haven't been following, they had apps that they were using to calculate the votes that have messed up. They still do the age-old process of literally hand counting people raising their hands, which in today's world is insane. It's fallen apart. There are all sorts of conspiracies as to what's going on. It seemed from polling that Bernie was going to win. That was my prediction. Remember, this is just the Iowa caucus. Now that things are being held up, Bernie supporters are saying the fix is in, shenanigans are in. It very well could be. The Democrats cheated Bernie in 2016. I see no reason they wouldn't this time. Now, does that mean that's what's going on? It could just be an app failure. It could just be general incompetence with the DNC. Don't put that past them, but it could be that they're screwing Bernie over again. And they're rigging votes as we speak. Who knows? I'll defend Bernie. I think that would be heinous if that's done to him. But Bernie doesn't deserve my defense. Neither do Bernie supporters, even though I'll give it to them. Because I try to be a person that doesn't leave my political affiliations ruin my integrity. I believe what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. I don't want to see people that even I disagree with be treated in an unfair manner. So I'll stick up for Bernie and his supporters. But never forget, Bernie and his supporters cheered on the corruption against Donald Trump from the establishment from day one. Even after that same establishment screwed Bernie in 2016. Bernie himself personally has been one of the greatest people advocating that Trump did all of this heinous stuff. Now, all of a sudden, just like I've been saying, go back, watch my videos from when I started my channel of August 2018. I've been saying to my friends on the left, and you just heard me if you're on this live stream, I try to talk to my friends on the left. And by the way, I legitimately have a ton of friends on the left. I do. I spent years in college in the debate circuit. Almost everyone there is left wing. Some of those people are some of the nicest people I've met in my life, still have lasting friendships for them. We argue like crazy when it comes to politics, but we're still good friends. We don't allow that to drive a wedge into us. But when I talk to them, I say, listen, I get it. You don't like Trump. Fair enough. But you should not be cheering for the corrupt intel agencies, the corrupt mainstream media, and the corrupt DNC spying on Trump, leaks against Trump, all of the crap they've done against Trump. You're basically cheering for the greater evil because you don't like Trump. And that's a huge mistake. And I said, mark my words, This will be done in 2020. The next time there's a candidate that you think's truly progressive or truly on your side, they're going to run the same playbook against them. And then where will you be? That's exactly what's happening to Bernie again. The last debate, all the Bernie bros were furious because of CNN's grotesque treatment of Bernie, Elizabeth Warren's ridiculous lie that Bernie said that women couldn't win the election, then CNN going to bat for Elizabeth Warren. Of course the fix was in. Of course they prefer Elizabeth. I said that from the get-go. Elizabeth Warren's a plant. She is not a real progressive. Elizabeth Warren's political talent is she has no integrity whatsoever. She will lie and change her opinions on a moment's notice if it means getting power. She is the face that the Democrats put up because they understood that Bernie was encouraging this entire wing of the Democratic Party, the progressive wing. So they said, well, we need that wing to win, but we don't want an actual progressive that will screw over our wealthy donors. So we'll put Elizabeth Warren in. She says all the things Bernie says, but we could trust her when push comes to shove to be a corporatist as well. That's exactly what happened. As predicted, you heard it here first. And so, as far as the prediction that, of course, the corrupt intel agencies, mainstream media, and DNC would go after any candidate that didn't toe the line with them, that wasn't a difficult one to make, was there? So, yeah, let's see what's going on. We'll see how this ends up. Mark, did you say something here? What did you say? American Blow is an idiot. Is that someone on this chat here? One thing is with this restream, I'm having a little more trouble with the chat scrolling. Mark. Vote fixing has become the status quo. Beyond rigged votes. Yeah, I mean, it certainly has. And by the way, again, this goes beyond left-right. For example, Jimmy Dore, who's a progressive who hates Trump, but he's been correct about the Russia collusion and impeachment hoax the whole time. I remember doing a video on the fact that he had this guy came in who was running this was a Democrat, a ridiculous, like a super far progressive, right? So like a Bernie Sanders-esque person who challenged Debbie Wasserman Schultz in a primary. And the corruption and the vote rigging that went on in that primary is unbelievable. Now, if you're a Republican or you don't like the Democrats, you might say, so what? But again, we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. Just because it was not affecting me personally or my side of the aisle, it shows that that sort of tampering is possible. And we've seen this over and over. There's been credible allegations of vote tampering on the Republican side as well. I know Ron Paul got screwed in 2008. I remember doing blog posts back then that if you went to Google and you searched the amount of unique searches for Ron Paul, he outpaced all other candidates. You could see with your own eyes when you would look at his rallies how huge his rallies were compared to other candidates. There was time after time where they would take small districts, right? I did a whole post on this. Maybe I'll go back and do a video on this. It's well before I had a YouTube channel. But what was happening was they would take... there are precincts, voting precincts, and there would be rural or smaller precincts where Ron Paul would not necessarily be winning, but he'd be getting 12, 14% of the vote. But then mysteriously, every time it went to a bigger precinct, Ron Paul was only getting like 2% of the vote. Now, this wasn't just an urban versus rural thing. Some of the rural precincts were big. Some of the urban precincts were small. But it seemed that every time there was a big precinct, regardless of the demographics of it, Ron Paul was getting way less of the vote. Well, why? Well, because if there's only 40 people that vote in your precinct and it says Ron Paul got 0 votes and 20 of you voted for him, and things like this happen, particularly in New Hampshire, if I remember, and they had to go back, oops, it was a mistake, and change the votes. It's obvious if there's only 40 people that voted and 20 of you voted one way. But if there's 3,000 people and you say, oh, Ron Paul only got 3 votes, that's easier to cover up. That sort of stuff happens. We've seen the Project Veritas videos, right? Where people were saying, oh, we bus in people and we know that they're giving IDs out in many states. And make no mistake about it, this is part of the push to end the Electoral College as well. Because then a state, because this is the argument they always use. Well, even if California would not be as strong on voter fraud, let's be honest, the Democrats will win California anyways. Yeah, now picture if it's only a popular vote that matters. Do you trust the people of California to correctly vet who's voting? They could have 500,000 illegals vote there. How would we know? Now, that's hyperbolic, but not really. I mean, they'll pull out all the stops. They really will. And again, it's not just a left-right thing. It's an establishment thing. Yeah, I've seen Bernie Bros' big talk about Milwaukee will burn if Bernie doesn't win. Hey, man, this is the gamble that the Democrats and the identity politics has led to. They created the monster, and now it's going to turn on them. So they're trying desperately to find some sort of coalition to somehow keep the progressives while still bowing down to their corporatist masters. Remember, never forget this. The Democrats try to push the narrative that the Republicans are the party of the rich people. But the 2016 election showed us that the Democrats actually got a huge proportion of the wealthiest Americans' donations and support. So how do you justify a party that says rich white people are the devil that is backed by the richest, whitest people? And so eventually it will turn on itself. The only thing they have going is that they've been so successful in smearing Trump that they're hoping hatred of Trump is enough to keep this coalition together in the short term. Even if it is, even if with all their cheating and scamming and the fact that they control 90% of the public narrative, even if they win in 2020 and beat Trump, this will rear its head again in 2024. And this is why I tell people all the time, this is why independent content creators are so important. Because the battle will be fought through information. The worse their message is, the worse the establishment message is, the more they need to tighten their grip and make sure that the truth doesn't get out there. That's why they're so incessant on going after regular YouTube streamers. That's why we're shadow banned, demonetized. They're taking people off on Twitter, etc. That's what the war on, quote, fake news was about. It's just like the book 1984, Doublespeak. War is peace. We know the mainstream media are just propagandists. They say, we hold truth to the powerful. We hold truth to power. No, they don't. They bury the truth for the powerful. They say democracy dies in darkness, when they're the people holding the sheet to create the darkness. They say they need to go after fake news when they're the fakest of news. They can't win. That's why I'm up for talking to anyone, even people that disagree with me, because I'm confident in my message. And maybe someone will convince me that slight things I believe, I'm malleable. I'm willing to listen to the other side. I'm human, But they are not willing to listen. That's why they have to censor their opponents. Because if they have a fair shake and people are allowed to point out how corrupt they are, the game's over for them. So they're desperately clinging on to this power. Who knows who will win, Life's not a storybook. Sometimes you lose. Sometimes the bad guys win. But I'm trying to do my part, and I hope you are as well. The battle is information. It is the battle. We need no violence. We don't need the suggestion of violence. What we need is to reach, there are millions upon millions upon millions of people in this country, of all different shades of colors, of different sexual orientations, of different geographical locations, of different skill sets, etc. Millions of them that are just either uninformed or uninterested. If we could show those people the corruption that's going on, then we have a chance to be able to fight back. And they know that. The people that are censoring us know that. That's why you look at, and I say this all the time. I was saying this on the Patriot panel tonight. All of our discourse is controlled by cultural institutions. And those cultural institutions are dominated by the establishment. So think about it. What do the average people talk about? What is the message that you're hearing? Just picture this. And this is something I use a lot because this is the world I grew up in. I've lived in rural Pennsylvania my whole life. Now, the reason I do this show is because I had a gift for talking. I had a gift for debate. But I suck at all these things like working with my hands, hunting, being a mechanic. I'm terrible at all that stuff. But everyone I love, all the people that influence me, that's what they do. So I thought, well, maybe I could use my gifts to try to, give a voice to them because they're the people I feel that make America go. That doesn't mean that if you're a white-collar worker, you're not a great American. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying these are the people I'm connected to, and I don't think they have a voice. So let's use the example of you work a 9 to 5, you live in rural Pennsylvania or wherever. You come home, you just want to watch the local news, and it's all ran by the establishment, anti-Trump garbage, America's bad, identity politics garbage. So you're like, I don't want to listen to this. So you turn on late night comedy, and it's the exact same message being pushed. Maybe you're taking night classes somewhere. Academia is dominated by the same ideology. So you're like, man, where do I have left to go? I know, I'll go to social media. And the people running it are all dominating with the same establishment, particularly left-wing ideology. Where's your voice? Where's your chance to speak? Where's your chance to meet like-minded people? Well, the internet's the great equalizer. We used to talk about, I got a master's in speech communication. So I started college in 2002, and we talked about the idea of gatekeepers. There are certain corporations that control all of the news. Well, the internet's a great equalizer. It's hard for Time Warner to control the message when I could talk to 36 people right now on YouTube. So they have to change their policy. It's not enough to be able to control everything in the mainstream media. They have to control Silicon Valley, and they're doing it. Make no mistake about this. They're being successful in many ways. Think about it this way. You might not know who this character is, but there's a guy named PewDiePie. PewDiePie was by far the biggest YouTuber. I forget how many subscribers he had, but we're talking he would get 50 million unique views on some of his videos. 50 million. This dwarfs even the viewership of the top mainstream media shows, right? Now, PewDiePie wasn't uniquely political or anything like this, but the media, the people that want to control, gatekeep the information, knew that he was a potential threat. Because here's someone reaching a lot of people. Even if it's not political, even if it's just cultural, they need to control that. They already control the entertainment industry. They control that part of culture. So they couldn't have a cultural influencer operating independent of their message. So they've gone after him over and over with all sorts of things. I'm not going to get into it here. But they totally went after him. They do the same. Like, look at Joe Rogan. He gets smeared. Joe Rogan is a lefty. He's a left-wing liberal type person. He endorsed Bernie Sanders. The Democrats went incessant. How dare Bernie accept an endorsement from a radical right-winger? It's just a lie. They do it with Dave Rubin. They do it with Tim Pool. All of these independent content creators. Because they understand they have to shut those people up. So that's why I think that this channel is important. So, hey, good night, anyone who's leaving. Yeah, I'll probably go for another half hour. I'll probably end at 1 a.m. here. So if you guys don't mind, yeah, Casey, I think Rogan's a pretty fair guy, and that's a good example. People like Rogan, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, these were people that all consider themselves left-wing, yet everyone will tell you, on average, right-wing people treat them so much fair. They treat them with so much more respect, and it's allowed them to start to question whether or not they identify as a left-winger anymore. That's what we could do. That's how we win. We show that we don't judge you based on characteristics like your skin color, your gender, things like that. We show that through our words and our actions that we're willing to endorse free speech. We're willing to listen to people that disagree with us. It's the other side that judges you based on your skin color. It's the other side that refuses to listen to you if you have a different belief. That's not who we are. And we are winning people like Joe Rogan. We are winning people like Tim Pool. Because they see, yes, these are people I can identify with. That's why it's important to show also, we could have fun. We could joke around. I believe all of that stuff. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have fun doing it. I have a blast. I'm a fun person in real life. Some of these Trump haters, you just see them seething all the time. It's like, wow. So if you guys, 2 questions. What are your thoughts about Q? And Preacher wants your email so he could get... I think Preacher has my email, but I will put it out. A flag behind my wall. Thank you. So let me talk about, real quick, I do home health care. I do what's called block shift. So when I'm at work, I work 24/7. Now, I'm off the clock at certain hours and on the clock at certain hours, but I can't go home. So my situation you see here is my work office, and it's hard for me to have a background, but I'm working on it. There is going to be something. It won't be an American flag because it has to be something that I could easily remove because I'm at work and it's set up. And so it'll be a little different. But I think I'm going to have that in the next 2 weeks. It'll be great. My home office, I would love an American flag. I can tell you what I was thinking of putting up behind me, which was I've grown up my whole life in Clarion County. And I looked at this. It's like $200. This awesome canvas of 1887 and a map of Clarion County done on a cloth canvas. So I thought about putting that behind me. But yeah, I will put my email out there. It's on my channel, I believe, if you go to my About Me. But it's just my name. It's just rob.noor@gmail.com. My thoughts on Q. All right, this is a tough subject, right? So I think that... here's what I think about... thank you, Preacher, by the way. Oh, you need my address. Email me, Preacher. And I don't want to give my address over this, but... yeah, I'll get you I have your email, so I'll respond to you tomorrow. I'll probably go right to bed after this, but I'll respond to you tomorrow, Preacher, with my address. Okay, so I'll be as honest as I can about Q. I think my gut feeling about Q is this. It's someone connected to Trump or a series of people connected to Trump that are very close with him. Trump knows these people are Q and that they do put out a lot of truthful information. But I also feel that a lot of it's hopeful information. In other words, I think sometimes they assume to be prophetic when in reality it's more of hopefulness. So let me say what I mean. If something doesn't go Trump's way, like this Ukrainian call, they will speak in terms it's like, oh, we anticipated this. And I don't know that necessarily they did. Now, I definitely think they're telling a lot of things that are true. They're getting a lot of good information out there. And I definitely think they're supporting Trump. But there's also a danger. So I'll talk to Q people and they'll say things like this. Well, sometimes Q is admitted they have to lie to us in order to get this information out. I don't play that game. I don't play in cryptic statements and things like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a necessity for this. But here's the danger. I don't believe anyone just based on faith. Because things like this could happen. If you watch my videos when the IG report came out on Comey himself, remember? Because the IG so far done 3 reports. He did one on the Hillary investigation. He did one on Comey's leaks of classified information to the press. And then he did the big one on the FBI FISA abuses. When it came out with the Comey report from the IG actually recommended criminal charges against James Comey, and Barr declined. I was furious. And I knew that this was coming down the pipe because I saw Trump supporters like Joe DeGenova, I can never pronounce his name right, but he's great. He's a really smart guy. He's been an advocate for Trump. He's talked about the corruption behind Russiagate. He came out like 2 weeks before the IG report in Comey and said, well, don't get your hopes up that a lot of people in the intel community will actually face criminal justice. It's enough to just get the information out there. And I was appalled by that. I said, no, that's the exact opposite tack to take. Because if you out the information, you just allow the other side, who controls the narrative, as I've already showed, to run defense. And then no one will change. Nothing's going to change. The corruption will go. Until people are held criminally accountable, the corruption will continue unabated. It's going on now. So I said, this is terrible. Comey should have been charged. And this is what I was told by Q supporters. Oh, no. Q says this is part of the plan. It's all part of the plan. Don't charge Comey now. We'll get him on bigger stuff later. I'm sorry. I can't operate on that in blind faith. The way I operate are facts, things, and my feelings that I can see right in front of me. I'm not going to say, oh, I don't want this obvious criminal who committed this obvious crime to be punished for this obvious crime because I believe someone who apparently has said, sometimes I have to lie to you, has a grander plan for this. Sorry, no. I was against that. Now, does that mean I'm against Q or his supporters? No, that's not what I'm saying. I think a lot of people read it in, and it's okay to be hopeful, and it's okay to have faith. But don't leave that faith allow you to be complacent if these criminals don't go to jail. You know, and I've asked Q supporters, I said, at what point would you say, okay, it's not part of the plan? Like, if Trump loses in 2020, is that still part of Q's plan? I don't know. I don't follow it that closely. So I think that Q did a great job of waking a lot of people up to the corruption. I think they're still putting out truthful information. I think they definitely mean well. I think they're connected to Trump for real. But I think that they're overly optimistic sometimes, right? Like Trump himself. Trump doesn't necessarily come out, and you wouldn't expect him to come out and say, yeah, this was a blow. Like 2018, the Republicans lost that midterm election. They did. Trump's not going to come out and say, yeah, we lost. He was like, oh, it was a great night for me and Republicans, right? I think Q's the same way. They don't acknowledge defeats. Everything's a victory for them. Everything's another, and like I said, I think they mean well, but that's, Fretfinger says, I don't understand Q. I'm coming to a conclusion based on limited info. Maybe. That could be. That's what people tell me. But I think if whether it be me or whether it be Q or anyone else, you should not have faith in people that can't present you information and say, well, I just have faith that they're right. I'm skeptical of that. That's just how I feel. I don't think... Right, watching trains go by, that's what I agree with. And again, don't be mistaken. I'm not saying, to heck with Q supporters or Q's terrible. I'm not saying that. We're basically on two lanes going down the same road. We're achieving the same goal. I'm just saying I haven't followed it as in-depth as certain people. Like, I don't know how to decode a Q message. And I think there is a potential danger in just believing something based on faith. And so, I can't see a good reason that Comey shouldn't have been charged criminally, for example. None. The answers that were given to me by Q supporters make no sense to me. Oh, well, if we would have charged him with this crime, then it would have been less impactful when we eventually charged Comey with the crimes of the FISA abuses. No, it wouldn't. I don't believe that at all. Won't Q still be operating? Won't Q supporters still say, yes, and we're going to get him on the FISA abuse? That's what I would be doing. I think anytime we let these lesser crimes go, what it does is sends the signal, oh, so it's okay for future FBI leaders to leak to the press to damage a president. And the precedent set will be not only will they leak, but then they'll then get to basically handpick the special counselor that investigates that president for 3 years. That's a terrible precedent. And Comey committed a terrible crime and should be held accountable for it. He did way worse than Flynn or Manafort or even people like Cohen or Papadopoulos or Carter Page, yet their lives were turned upside down. So I just got frustrated when I see so many people saying, we're happy that Comey didn't go. Yes, this is all part of the plan that Comey didn't get charged. I just disagreed. That was all. Yeah, Crocker Roy, and that's what I'm saying. I'll fully admit, and maybe Q... Well, yes, and for that, Fret Fingers, I get it if that's the case. It should force you to investigate things for yourself. I agree. And I think Q's done a great job of that. It's been like a red pill. It's woken people up. But there are a lot of people then, if that's what you think Q's to be used for, Fret Fingers, that's fine. I agree with that sentiment. But I'm telling you, I personally know a lot of people that identify as Q supporters that will say things like, oh, it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the plan. It's okay that Comey wasn't charged. It's part of the plan. Well, that's not waking people up to do their own research. That's blindly believing in something. And, I'm against that. So, yeah, but I agree with you. If used properly, faith can be used for good. And certainly you need to have some amount of faith or you become embittered, But that's my feelings on Q. And I know a lot of people that watch me are probably Q supporters like, woo. But again, like I said, we're going to disagree on things. And I think we agree on the agenda of Q. I think we agree on that. And I think that they're great people and I think they're patriots and they are waking people up. And they're doing more than most of the average Republicans we vote for. Certainly I believe all that. I'm just saying I don't know that I'm not so optimistic that I'm like, yes, this is all part of a plan and everything will work out perfectly. So I hope they're right. I hope I'm wrong and they're right. And I hope that I am playing some small part in waking people up to the truth in the same way. And I think that the people that run Q, I'm guessing, just the limited thing I know about them, would say, hey, it's okay to have healthy skepticism. And especially for people that are patriots that are still pushing against this coup and the corruption in the deep state. So I hope you guys that's a good enough explanation for people. But again, I'll say this too. I'm not going to make fun of anyone for any beliefs they have related to things like that and the corruption that's going on in Washington at all. The official mainstream narrative is Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. That is a bigger conspiracy. There's certainly infinitely more proof that Q is real and that what he's saying or she or the group of them is saying will come true than Epstein killed himself. So certainly you won't see me make fun of anyone or mock them or anything like that. So, I was going to ask you all, there's 32 people watching, would someone like to try to call in? Because here's, when I'm at my work office, my internet connection's a little different. And when I did the Patriot Super Panel, I had to make some adjustments because I was lagging at first. So I want to see tomorrow night. And by the way, thank you all so much. Like, for real, this was an impromptu live stream. It's one of the biggest ones I've had, 35 people. I will be doing this tomorrow night at 11 p.m. That one will be scheduled. So you'll see me pushing it all day, and it'll have a link up all day that shows exactly when I'll be starting at 11 p.m. So everyone you are right about that, Fred Fingers. I know I had Q people talking about Epstein 2 years ago. And certainly a lot of stuff that they have said has came true. Don't get me wrong. I agree. So, So I'm going to put my number up here if someone wants to call so I can work out. It might not work, but I'm trying to work out the bugs. So I appreciate you 35 people that are here because I feel like you're my guinea pigs and I can test things out with the show and just talk to you honestly in a non-formal way, work out some of these bugs. So I'm going to put the number up here if someone wants to call. Here's what my call policy is going to be. I don't have someone moderating the call, so I'll leave you, I'm going to leave people talk. Tonight's one thing, but on a normal show, I'm going to ask people, try to keep it to a minute, because the problem we ran in the Patriot Super Panel tonight, we closed that down with 30 people on the line waiting to get in. And it's so awesome just to leave people call in and talk for 10 minutes. And it's not going to be a problem tonight, but hopefully as my show grows, try to keep it a minute, and then I'll respond. But anyone who would like to call, I really appreciate it. So I'm going to put the number up. There's no call waiting or anything, so it's just first come, first serve. But yeah, if you want to have anything you'd like to ask me or anything you want to talk about, feel free, and I'm going to try to work the bugs out. For those of you that don't call in, could you let me know once the caller calls in if you could hear me, if you could hear the caller, things like that. So we'll see. The call board is waiting. Normally I'd have my wife call in or something. Q is, how do you know you can trust any presidential candidate until you've seen them do a job? Yeah, I agree with you, Croco Roy. I that's right. Even with Trump supporters, one of the things I try to tell Trump, your patriotism, your advocacies, it's more than just one person. You should never put your faith in just one person. Okay, we got a call coming in. I will answer.
Call from
Michelle from Texas.
To accept, press 1.
Hey, is this Michelle from Texas?
Yes. Hi, Robert.
How's it going? Thanks for calling in.
It's Michelle W.
Yeah, I see you all the time.
Hey.
Thank you. You're an awesome supporter. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for doing what you're doing, bringing people together and educating us.
I try. And I also get educated a lot by, the people that are talking to me. So I love doing it.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you if you had heard about, I didn't watch your entire video about the coronavirus, but have you heard the connection with Bill Gates?
I have not.
Yeah, so he's got his hands in this, just like he has with all of the other, different technical stuff or whatever. He's got his hands in, and he was in China. I did some research on it last night. He was in China at the very end of November, and they actually did a Chinese television station did a report, with him on there, and 3 weeks later was the first case in Wuhan. So I don't know. It's just too many things keep lining up with him. I was just curious, and I think it's something that we all should research a little bit further.
I'm 100% with you. Now, I'll have to look this up before I can speak on Bill Gates personally being involved, but certainly he's someone who's been in with the globalist agenda. And we have to remember, one of the things I did read and I did talk about tonight on that video and this Patriot Super Panel was, we now have 2 different universities, Harvard and then a university in Winnipeg, that had connections with Chinese nationals and people working with Chinese nationals to facilitate viral type investigations or research to going into Wuhan. I don't know if everyone saw, but just the Harvard professor that was arrested here a week or so ago about this. The video I did talks about this Canadian professor who's a Chinese national that was also connected. The theory that I'm reading is that this was actually from Saudi Arabia. The original strain of the coronavirus was from Saudi Arabia in 2012. Then it was being researched in this Canadian university, smuggled out into the Wuhan facility. So even though I don't have specific information about Bill Gates, here's what I do know. There are certainly well-connected people that would be, on face value, seemingly well-respected academics that we now know are being criminally charged with helping manufacture the problems we're seeing with the coronavirus. So I would not be surprised to see someone like Bill Gates be implicated in that. I would be surprised if he ever faces justice or if the information ever becomes mainstream, because he's part of that clique. He's part of the globalist establishment clique. But yeah, we need to be distrusting. Right. And the other thing about it is this. I'm not saying, oh, go egg Bill Gates' house or dox him or scream at him. I don't know. I'm not saying that. But it is important to have a healthy skepticism. And when we see people connected to things like that, we should question them. So, but yeah, I'll check it out. Thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem. One other thing I wanted to tell you is about Q is that, with the Q, reports that come out, it's the future, proves the past. Mm-hmm. So the post on Q, you'll just get a random something, and it might not make sense. Some of it might, some of it won't. And then there'll be dates and everything on it. Well, then a year or two later, it all connects, the dots connect. It's because with the secret clearance or the Q clearance, you can't be giving out information, right? Classified information. So it has to be researchable, but it's just like little nuggets for everybody to research. That's pretty much what it is. So I don't understand when people write like it's kind of like a cult. It's really more like people coming together and researching. It gives something for the people to do, because really it's all information that's out there. It's just how do you get to it? If that makes sense. I mean, they're not really giving us anything classified. They're just giving us hints to go look for certain things, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. I'll let you, thank you for calling. I'll let you go here and I'll respond to that. But yeah, I really appreciate it. I get that. And I do. And that aspect of it, for example, I totally believe that Q, because of the connection to Trump and being in that level and having a clear, because I do believe it's someone with a high clearance that's connected to Trump. I do believe that. So I do think that they're telling us behind the scenes stuff that's going to happen in the future, and they want us to research it. I do believe that's the case. That, though, it's not some grand scheme in my mind. It's not a grand plan where they know what the outcome will be. So let me give you an example. You could hypothetically have this. Let's say Q knew in 2017 that the FBI violated protocol over and over again to use the Steele dossier that was unverified opposition research to spy on Trump. I'm sure I know that I was reading Q posts back then that predicted this, right? They knew that there had to be a proper investigation. They couldn't just release that information. So they led to putting information out there to get people to research it. Yes, I agree with that 100%. But what Q doesn't know is, well, will these people ultimately face criminal justice? I don't know that Q knows that, because it's impossible to know, because it's an ongoing battle, right? There are patriots that are fighting to end this corruption, but I'm not certain they will win. And so that's kind of more of an opinion. But I do believe Q when they would say, yes, this evidence of corruption will come out. The other thing is, I do think that there's a lot of tidbits that are going in that's forcing people, and it's all good to be able to research. And people calling it a cult and stuff, it's ridiculous. I would trust Q, if you think of Q as more of a media source, except it's a media source that's forcing you to do your own research. They're far more credible than almost any mainstream media source we see, by far. So certainly anyone who arrogantly says people that believe in it is a cult is ridiculous. That's a ridiculous statement to make. But I wonder, part of me, and this is just a curiosity, wonders how much of it is Q planting something and knowing that people will find it, or how much of it is Q planting something and hoping people will find it. And there's a difference, right? There's this, you could look into all this stuff like the law of attraction or like memetics and things like that, where the idea of it's like there's this ether out there, and if we're all chasing some goal and we're all independently researching this one thing, then the chance of other people researching it and picking up on it and drawing connections that fit in is increased. So I don't know. It's beyond my pay grade of intellect. So I guess I understand Q's a lot of things to different people, and I do respect it. I respect that I think they're patriots that are trying to do the right thing. My personal belief is I will never, ever, ever, I don't care if it's someone, in my family that I trust, I will never say, oh, well, what I know to be right, which I know that charging James Comey for illegally leaking classified information to the press and starting the entire Mueller investigation, I know that's a crime. And I know that morally and legally he should be charged with that crime. And I'm not going to say, oh, I'm not going to get upset about it because Q said it's fine. I'm just not going to say that. So, but yeah, thank you, Michelle. And it is a good explanation. And please understand, I'm not, I'm not bagging on anyone. I'm not saying I'm right. It might come down that everything Q said is exactly right, that it comes down. I don't know. But all I know is, what can I do as a person? And me as a person, I'm operating on the assumption of, I see these, I do my own research, just like I think Q would want me to do. I do my own research, and when I see something that I truly believe, that I just honestly report it, and I honestly say that. And, maybe people are misunderstanding Q that said, oh, no, it's all part of the plan. Don't worry about Comey not being charged. Because if everyone believes that, what happens if Trump loses in 2020 then? Then won't everyone look a fool that was like, oh, geez, maybe we should have charged Comey with the crimes we had at the time. So, let's see. So I got 7 more minutes. I think the audio is working well. Let me see if I got anything left in the chat. Right, Mark, that's part of the Trust Jeff Sessions thing. Like, nothing really came of that. And it's difficult. I'm not trying to alienate anyone. I'm just giving my honest opinion. I don't blindly trust people. I just don't. I don't. If Q puts out information that leads me to researching stuff and coming to some great facts, awesome. And I think that happens a lot. But I don't just trust some plan. I don't. Trust something implies I shouldn't be taking personal... think of it this way, right? If I just trust some sort of plan, then I'm less likely to do what I can personally to ensure that the corruption ends. Let's not talk about Q for a second. I talk to a lot of Republicans here in rural Pennsylvania, and these are heavy Republican districts, and they're convinced Trump's going to win 49 states in the 2020 election. It's not even going to be close. He's going to win the popular vote by 10 million votes. Game over. It's that simple. And I'm like, no, that is the exact wrong attitude to have if you want Trump to win. That's the attitude Hillary Clinton had. That's the attitude the mainstream media and the academia and the FBI and the rest of the intel agencies had about Hillary. And we saw where that got them. Never underestimate that the people that are for the corruption, the establishment, they're powerful too. They're playing the game too. And they might win. So we all need to do everything in our individual capacity, whether it's individual research, whether it's just talking to people, whether it's just living your life as an example to show why the smears that are, issued against conservatives or Trump supporters or just everyday normal Americans are garbage. We all have things we could do. And if you just say, like the Democrats did, trust us, Hillary's got it in the bag, what happens? Well, then people aren't antsy to get out and vote. People aren't antsy to get their message out, and they lose unexpectedly. So, I guess that's where I come from. I'm trying to keep myself motivated to do, within reason as much as I can. Right, watching trains go by. They have, right. But yeah, please don't think that if you're a Q supporter that I'm bagging on you. I'm not. And if Q, right, it doesn't matter if I believe everything Q did or not. If Q put you in a better place, if Q made you a person who did more research and it led you to seeing this corruption, then that's worth it. It absolutely is. So don't think that I'm bagging on it. So, right, and Crockleroy, this is something I say all the time about Trump. I support Trump. I do. There are things I criticize with him, deficit spending, bombing Syria, etc. And I'll voraciously criticize him for it. But my biggest criticism would be this. If he leaves this administration and none of these criminals that have been outed in the intel communities and elsewhere face justice, then it won't be a success. It wouldn't have been a success to me. Because to me, that's the only issue that matters, ending this corruption. Now, Trump, by virtue of who he is and winning and being a potential outsider, he has made that corruption more blatant and more obvious to the average American than any time in my lifetime. And in that way, it has been a huge success. But that's just step one. Step two is holding these people to account. Now, it's not all on Trump. He can't do everything himself. He's not a dictator. So I'm not saying I'll find this to be a moral failing of his, but I mean, ask yourself this, honestly. Honestly think about this question. Don't think, oh, Rob's just a Hillary supporter in disguise. Really think about what I'm saying here. Let's say Trump loses 2020. James Comey never gets charged with a crime. Neither does anyone else at the FBI. Nothing's ever done to the media, to the intel agencies, to the Democrats. No one's criminally charged. The Democrats win in 2020. In that world, if that happened, what would have been a better situation in 2016? Trump winning or Hillary? Now, I get it. I despise Hillary, right? And no doubt there would have been a lot of things in this country that were worse off under Hillary, easily, no doubt. But to me, one of the greatest sins, imagine what you were like to be in the corrupt establishment, to be these intel people, to be the military-industrial complex, to the deep state, right? Whatever you want to call it. You're operating incrementally. You can't just come out and be like, we have total control now. Everything, it's like the boiling frog theory. They're constantly turning up the heat in corruption. Doing little bit, right? Trump, the big victory of Trump is he outed that. He showed what it is by virtue of who he is. For the first time in my life, I think that these corrupt people went, oh shit, really? Right? But if they see, despite the blatant corruption shown to every American on national television every night, despite the obvious media corruption, despite the insanity that we see coming from the DNC and the Democratic Party, despite the corruption we see from the intel community, despite all of it, it was just a whimper. People gnash their teeth for a couple minutes and then life as usual. In many ways, then, these corrupt say, my God, what a huge blessing this is. We don't have to slow walk this anymore. Heck, we could be corrupt right out in public and nothing will be done. In many ways, that's worse off, because if Hillary won, none of this would have been revealed, but they would have still had to be operating corruptly behind the scenes. Now, people like me and most of my audience would have been able to, we've known about the corruption for a long time. But the average American, once you could say, you know what, I can accept this amount of corruption from the FBI. That's a huge win for the corruption. So we need to hold these people to account. Charges must be brought. It's not enough just to out the corruption. Look, take this, maybe you think this is too much of a conspiracy theory. I don't. I think the proof's right there. Take something that we know 100% is factual. We know that in the 2018 financial collapse, there was all sorts of corruption at the highest levels in the banking institute. We know that. It's been proven. It's not debatable. How many of those high-ranking people went to jail? How many of them were criminally charged? Heck, how many of them were even civilly charged? Basically no one. Now, do you think the corruption ended then? Do you think that the bankers that behaved in corrupt ways, and I use the bankers term loosely, anyone who was involved in Wall Street that was doing corruption, do you think that they're like, oh man, that was a devastating blow to me. Whew, the good guys won that one. Of course not, they're laughing. And there will be another financial collapse that will result from the exact same types of behavior, because they got filthy rich and then they got bailed out by the taxpayer and they face no consequence. The same is true. Why do you think James Comey's on television celebrating after the IG report? Until they're criminally held accountable, they win. It's that simple. So, oh, no problems, sweet cheeks. Typos of, yeah, you know, Mark, I'm pessimistic on Bill Barr. I am. Now, I would be more than happy to be wrong. I would be more than happy for Bill Barr to come out. It would be some of the happiest crow I've ever eaten. Hey, I was wrong. Bill Barr did a great job. He locked these people, or at least pressed charges against Comey and Baker and Rebecca and Rosenstein and McCabe, etc. He's starting to investigate Obama. That's where the real corruption is. Obama was the head man. Make no mistake about it. Not Hillary, Obama. I don't even really care that Hillary got opposition research from Russians. I really don't care. Now, the Democrats should care, because they're the ones saying getting opposition research or dirt from foreign people it's an act of war, it's impeachable, it's sedition. That's what they say. I never really thought that. So you're not going to hear me saying lock Hillary up for paying for the dossier. The crime to me was how Obama used it. That's the crime. And if he's allowed to get away with it, then nothing will be solved. Right. Obama is CIA. Now, if we take Obama down, is everything solved? No, I'm not saying that. And there's certainly people behind the scenes that are running things. But Obama was the figurehead. He knew what was going on. He was the head of this. David Woodruff. I'll have to check that person out. Is that someone in my chat here? Or is that... let's see. I saw a Preacher here. Read up, says Preacher. Okay. I did. So, yeah, Preacher, I did get your email about the Democrats. What they were doing is the Democrats in Pennsylvania state legislature are trying to revoke stand your ground law. They've done this in the past as well. Yeah, this is something you see happen a lot. It's why your state politics are as important as your federal politics in many ways. So what they're trying to do is, and they've done this in several states, trying to claim that stand your ground law actually leads to increased volatile situations and therefore it leads to more death and so it should be revoked. Actually, the opposite is true. Stand your ground laws have been shown over and over again to lead to more responsible gun ownership. And actually the amount of times that people are arrested for abusing the stand your ground law is a pittance compared to the amount of times that it could have saved lives. Now, does this mean that anytime you decide to try to defend yourself, it'll work out well? No. But that is a fundamental right you have as a human. That is one of the rights guaranteed to you that you should have. You have the right to defend yourself. Removal of that is the removal of all of your rights. If you don't have the right to defend yourself, then you don't have the right to speak. And if you don't have the right to speak, you don't have your right to anything. So yeah, we have to be vigilant in all of the states, including like in Pennsylvania. Now, I haven't researched Preacher to see exactly how likely this is to be passed. My gut feeling says it won't have the votes, but they do pay lip service to this type of stuff routinely. And it's a reason to make sure you're getting out there in all of your elections and doing what you can. Run for office yourself if you have to. But yeah, it's definitely an issue that we should focus on. Yeah, Ken, I mean, you're right. A lot of times your rights come down to who has the most money in our legal system. That's one of the things I find funny about like groups like Black Lives Matter. They're on to something that I think most Americans can agree with, which is there are problems in our legal system. It's not racist cops. That's garbage. And the fact that they want to make it all about race shows that they're disingenuous. But to me, there's an inherent problem in our legal system where I can't go in. I'm an intelligent person, I think. I can't go in and defend myself in a court of law. I almost automatically lose because the language is different. I need a lawyer that knows how to speak the jargon. It's not like Judge Judy, which I love watching Judge Judy, where you go on, you make your case, the judge is reasonable, and picks a winner. For example, I know people that have done things like apply for disability. I've been told, I don't know if this is true, but you almost always get rejected on your first application for disability. And you will not get accepted unless you hire an attorney. Now, the attorney is going to charge you about 25% of your back earnings. But the system's set up, no matter how just your cause is, you could be, ran over and lost all of your limbs. Clearly this is the exact type of person that these disability laws were meant for, right? But even then you won't get the disability unless you hire the attorney because the system's stacked in that way. And it's something we should put more focus on. The judges that are making these rulings were formerly attorneys, and it's like a big racket. They keep themselves in business. I'm for simplifying the legal system as far as the process that plays out in courts. I think that it's vastly overly complicated, and it's a disservice to average people. And it does screw over poor people that can't afford the best defense quite often. Let's see. Right, Mark, I agree with you totally. I think we're all on the same side. David Woodruff is someone in the chat. We've been getting a lot of love in the chat, David. People saying they agree with you. Yeah, faith that God will clean up the mess. Maybe. I'm more private with my religion. I would say I'm a Christian. But my feeling on that would be God, if God's going to clean up the mess, he'll do it through people. Right? It's for me, and I'm not saying you're doing this, by the way, David. It's a mistake, I believe, to sit back and think someone else will solve a problem, whether it be God or Trump or Q or whatever. Like, we should all do our own part. And I believe that, whatever, whether it be God, a higher power like that, or whether it be someone who's like a real person, like the people involved with Q, I think that they both would agree that's what it should be about, helping yourself. I truly believe in personal responsibility and personal freedom. So, could I do more? Absolutely. I could sit here and beat myself up and say, I could have went to this rally. I could have. But I also have a life, and I enjoy having fun, and I enjoy my family. I'm a very lucky person. I have to work like 80 hours a week. So, but I'm trying to do what I can. But yeah, we help ourselves. Yeah, Mark, that's what keeps me up at night too, as well. More than the coronavirus, more than any of these specific stories. I truly love this country. I truly do. I honestly mean that. I do. Have there been a lot of bad things that have occurred with this country? Absolutely. The foreign regime change wars. You can go back to slavery. There's been bad stuff, but that's true of any country. But the idea, again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to tell you that I'm one of these most super well-read people. I read, I do, but a lot of my influences come from entertainment. They come from comedy, or they come from movies. I get a lot of stuff from movies because it stirs something in you if it's done right. I go back to that scene in the movie Gladiator. I love Gladiator. What a great movie. But it's the scene where Maximus is meeting with the Emperor before he dies, Marcus Aurelius. And he asks, he's about to tell Maximus, I want to name you the next Caesar to give the power back to the people. And he's asking Maximus, he says, what is Rome? What is Rome to you? Have you ever been to the city? And Maximus is like, no, it's the idea. It's this shining city on the hill. That's what the United States is. The United States was codified individual freedom and responsibility. The first country that made it so clear the country isn't this collective. The country is the individual. That's what's amazing. Now, they understood you couldn't have anarchy. You needed a system behind that. But it's beautiful. And the idea that all that matters is your content of your character. Yes, some mistakes were made, don't get me wrong. But it's that idea. Right? Another good quote, kind of along what I'm saying, like in the one Batman movie, they talk about this. Batman, the person, is flawed. Bruce Wayne, the person, has all sorts of flaws. He's human. Humans will always be flawed. But Batman, the symbol, is what's important. That's what it is. It's United States, the symbol. In order to maintain that symbol of liberty, personal freedom, responsibility, we have had so many great people. The names you know, the founding fathers, the names you don't know, right? The veterans that died in mud somewhere, whether it be on our soil, whether it be on other soil, generation after generation, people working just to hear stories of my grandpa and my great-grandpa and the amount of work they did for the little wealth that they got in return, working themselves to the bone. Everyone has people like this in their ancestry. If you're black, slaves, right? Some of the greatest Americans that I can think of were slaves that got freed. And instead of saying, we're owed something, said, just leave us alone. Leave us work the land ourselves. That's incredible strength. Incredible. No matter what your ethnicity, you have those people. That's what made this country great. And I feel like then I came up to bat. Then my generation came up to bat. And what did I do? I let it all go. All the people that fought and died or worked their finger to the bone. Great thinkers. Giants that I stand on the shoulders of. And I dropped the ball. Me, my generation. I screwed it up. I let this country fall into corruption. So that's what drives me. I don't want to be part, I want to know when it comes time for me to move on that, I tried. Could I have done more? Maybe, but that's what I try. Perhaps you're right, David. I hope you're right. I'd be, that'd be great. Yeah, and anyone out there that's a veteran, thank you so much for your service. I really mean it. It's, we had a caller call into the Patriot panel and they said, what if you're a veteran and you find out that a lot of these wars, maybe you went to Afghanistan, or you went to Iraq, or you were sent to Syria, or whatever, and you think the war is corrupt once you learn more about it, and that would hurt. I can only imagine the hurt that would cause if you're a veteran. But know this, if you're a veteran out there, you signed up to protect this country's freedom. And if you were pointed in the wrong direction, that is not your fault. You are still a hero. You're still a patriot. You're not the one to fault. Never feel ashamed for your service to this country. Even if this country has done bad things or will do bad things in the future, the people running it. You fought for an ideal. You protected the ideal of freedom, responsibility, liberty. And that's one of the greatest things you could do. So, can I look at the comments under the Super Bowl halftime show? Yeah, I'll wrap up on this. I have almost no pride in my race, like the white race. I just don't care. For me, I think about it this way. When I die, if I could come back and look, what does the United States look like 100 years after I'm gone? I will be less concerned that there are people that look like me and more concerned that there are people that think like me. Now, oftentimes, people that look like you or come from similar backgrounds end up being more likely to think like you. But for me, this is a mistake that the diversity crowd makes. They say diversity is our strength. But what does that really mean? Not diversity of skin color. That's garbage. If you have 10 people in a room and from shades completely black to as pale as could be and everywhere in between, but they all think alike, that's not strength. That's not diversity. That's superficial. What you want's diversity of thought and idea. That's what's important. 10 people that all look like identical twins, but they all think differently. That's diversity. That's the diversity we talk about that's important. So I just personally, for me, it's not something that I've taken an interest in. Like, I've said before, if white people voluntarily would decide to not reproduce, I wouldn't care, as long as there are people that represent the ideals of America, personal freedom, liberty, responsibility, etc., that type of thing. But I certainly understand, no matter what race you're in, it's okay if you identify with it and have pride in your race. That's fine. It's not something I focus on, but I focus on all kinds of weird stuff. Like, I have pride in my community, my local community. Maybe you don't. That's fine. Right? There's no problem. There's nothing inherently wrong with being proud of your race or your ethnicity or any of those categories. There's nothing wrong with that at all. At all. Now, you shouldn't act with animus or bigotry, etc. We all get that. And certainly there's a double standard applied, right? And this is the problem. Like Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot. The problem with the left and the playing of identity politics is eventually the groups that you're demonizing, they'll learn to play the game as well. And so now, because of cultural Marxism, we say, white is oppressive and all other colors are oppressors, are oppressed. And so you can't take pride in your skin color as a white person. Again, it's not something I do. I don't care. And I'm not trying to play the victim, like, poor white. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, if you're black out there and you're like, hey, black pride, good for you. I don't begrudge you at all. But understand that someone might want to say I have white pride. That's all I'm saying. There's reasons for people of all races to be proud. All races have done bad things collectively as well. Again, this is something I say about cultural Marxism all the time. They want to make you not an individual. It's anathema to everything the United States stands for. Personal liberty and personal responsibility. Freedom. That's all about you, the individual. What they want to do is take away your individuality. And instead, you're just a collection of your group characteristics. So I'm not Rob Noor, the individual. I'm Rob Noor. I'm white. I'm male. I'm married. Heterosexual, etc. I'm all those groups. Those groups all are oppressor groups. The opposite groups of those, or the different groups, are oppressed. But the problem is that denies your individuality. And even beyond that, even if we operate in that paradigm, the truth is that any one of those categories are both simultaneously oppressed and oppressors at the same time. So white people, yes, have been oppressors, but they've also been oppressed. And in fact, right now, depending on where you're at, what your situation is, it could be both oppressor or oppressed to be white. Same is true of black. Same is true of Latina. Same is true of male. Same is true of female, etc. The oversimplification proves why the ideology is nonsense in the first place. And so, you end up in this situation where it's like, white pride is racism and bigotry and terrible, but black pride is noble or Latino pride is noble. And it's all nonsense. It's nonsense. I just don't care about skin color at all. I don't care. But if you want to take pride in your race, that's perfectly fine. I'd say the same to whatever race. Native American, black, Latino, white. It don't matter to me. If you have pride and you're not acting on animus or, acting out in bigoted ways based on that pride, great for you. You see all these we have St. Patrick's Day celebrating Irish pride. Cinco de Mayo celebrating Latino pride. I'm fine with all that, right? But it just seems ridiculous that this idea that we have to demonize whiteness. It's absurd. Preacher, thanks. Let me wrap up here. Crocker Roy, that's a great point, right? I live in a very rural area of the world, in rural Pennsylvania. I'm 35. Racism is basically dead amongst my generation. And you'll find the odd hanger on around some older people. And I let it go. I'm not going to change their mind. But basically, we have people come around of all different ethnicities. It never comes up at all. At all. Now, people might tell bad, jokes, racial jokes. I've heard racial jokes about white people, black people, Latino people, Jewish people, Polish people, German people. Jokes are jokes, But when it comes to honest to goodness bigotry, I don't really see it. Yes, I know it exists. But even here, where it's supposed to be prevalent in rural America, I don't see it. It's not happening in practice. Yeah, that's exactly right, David. You're not racist if you hate everyone equally, so. All right, well, I'd like to thank everyone, for being, Milo, why not, Milo? Call in. I legitimately only have 10 minutes because I do have to do some work stuff and get to bed here. But, Milo, here's the number. Please just let Milo call in. Milo's one of my patrons. He's a great guy. So we'll see if he can call in, but then I'll be wrapping it up. Thank you to Michelle for calling in earlier. Thank you to my patrons, Milo and Dib, Killer Kyle. Thank you to my friends Chirby and Logan, who've done a ton to help set up my channel. And thank you to every single person that watches. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't, please hit like and subscribe. Check out my description on this video. You can find where you can support me on DLive, Twitter, BitChute, and places like that as well. So please check that out. We'll see if we'll give Milo a minute here to see if he calls in. Okay, he's not going to call. Go ahead, Milo. Say what you got. Milo's going to do a live show with me soon. Thank you, Norman. Yeah, I hope it's fun. I do try to have fun here as well. Sometimes I'm ranting and raving and screaming and things like that, but... Milo, I promise all of you, you'll really like to hear from Milo, and I'll be doing a show with him. I think we've agreed, there's tons of stuff we could talk about, but maybe Electoral College, maybe we're going to be doing a show on that soon. It's tough with, our schedules, it's tough to get someone... TQ long. Someone calls, so I stay longer. Now, I ought to be going to bed. I really ought to. And remember, I'll be doing this tomorrow at 11 p.m. I'll take call-ins then as well. So I will wrap up here. But, thank you all so much. I do really appreciate it. You have no idea. I say this a lot, and I just want to really impress this upon you. I am humbled that even one person would want to listen to me. I really am. It means a lot to me. One of the things that I think got me interested in this, talking politics and just other stuff, is you wonder if there are like-minded people out there. You wonder if there are people that kind of share a lot of your beliefs. And it's tough in your day-to-day life. You turn on your television, you don't see it. So the fact that there's so many people, even if you disagree with me, that are willing to listen to me, it's truly humbling. And I really do. The show is so much better because all of you listen. So I really appreciate it. Michelle, thank you again for calling in. Preacher, thank you for the emails. Remember, I'll put my email up one more time. If you got anything to email me, suggestions for the show, topics to cover. I can't promise I'll get back to each and every person. I'm starting to get more emails now, and I do work a lot. So I might go 2-3 days where I don't even have access to, if I'm having a crisis at work. I just can't do videos and stuff like that, and I can't respond to emails. So but I really do try. Yeah, Columbo. Oh, yeah, one more thing. But thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. So I'll put my outro video on here. So thanks, everyone, so much. Have a good one, as always.